the silence. Her unapologetic voice. Stop shrinking to fit. This is your turning point. Women who rose from the ashes, stepping into the joint. God-given purpose calling, louder than the noise. Critical thinking, courage, vulnerability with poise. Reclaim your power, reclaim your confidence, faith and healing in motion, holy oxygen. What lights you up, ignite your passion now. You've got a voice with meaning.
You're listening to Let's Break the Silence with Angeline, the show that helps faith-driven women break free from silence, heal through sisterhood, and rise into divine confidence. I'm your host, Angeline Constantinou, and each week we're diving into conversations that ignite healing, identity, and purpose. So if you're ready to step into your power, you're in the right place.
Her unapologetic voice, this mic is yours to
Welcome back to Let's Break the Silence with Angeline, today's 199th episode. And this episode is going to open your heart, awaken your spirit, and remind you of the power of your voice. I am honored to welcome Nattacia Satie to the show. Nattacia is a multi-dimensional voice channeler, transformational sound practitioner, and LightLeader with more than 30 years of experience helping visionaries, creatives, and entrepreneurs break through fear, emotional blocks, and self-suppression so they can fully express who they truly are. And after experiencing a profound spiritual activation in 1988, she stepped into a powerful path of healing and transformation that combines intuitive sound, energetic transmission, voice activation, and transformational guidance to help people experience rapid personal shifts and deeper authenticity. Her work is all about helping people reconnect with their truth, unlock their voice, and move beyond the limitations that have kept them small. And honestly, this conversation aligns so beautifully with the mission of this podcast because so many people are walking around disconnected from their voice, hiding parts of themselves, suppressing emotions, and afraid to be fully seen. Today, we're going deeper into healing, self-expression, spiritual awakening, and what it truly means to embody your authentic self. Nattacia, welcome to the stage. Welcome to Let's Break the Silence with Angeline. And I'm so honored to have you on my podcast show today. And we had the pleasure of meeting in person. It was about a couple of months ago, right? In London.
Yes.
Yes. And it was wonderful, wonderful experience. And Nattacia is going to share her story, and she's going to share her journey of being a light leader and what was life like. So actually, let's open up with this. What was life like for you before your spiritual activation in 1988?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for embracing me here in your circle. I am so honored, really. Yes, I don't take it lightly. This is such a beautiful from the heart invitation. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
What was my story like? Well, my first 6 years of my life I spent with my maternal grandparents, they were my parents. I barely knew my parents. They were children having a child. I, yes, I spent, and it was heaven, it was paradise. I was performing all the time and leading my friends, and I was singing and telling stories. And that led me up to age 6. And then my parents were responsible and said, she's going to school now, we're going to take her on. So then it became a very trying time in my life because they were not at peace with one another. So they created a lot of chaos and turmoil. And the next 13 years until I left age 19, my brother and I were in that fire. They created a war zone at home. It was very violent. It was very abusive. It was very, very unsafe. There was not much love. Had I not had that very first foundational 5-6 years with my first parents, I call them, my Opa and Oma, that was in Austria. And they were so loving and they were so supportive of all my grandmama would always say, our Gigi is going to be a big movie star one day and she's gonna move and shake the world. And so they saw the light in me and the leader in me. And then, yes, and then it all just crumbled. And then from age 19 on, when I moved away and I moved to Vienna for 6 years to study, not what I begged them to be allowed to, because they didn't believe in performing arts. So the closest they allowed me was to study languages. And I went to Vienna University to become a UN interpreter. And it was just not what I was there to do, to regurgitate other people's voices and sentences, no? So I became physically very ill. It was all somatized, of course, and immediately I gotten into a very abusive relationship with a colleague from uni. Of course, today we know I was repeating my parents' pattern. And I wanted to so prove to them that peace in a relationship could work, but I couldn't make it work. So it got really, really bad at age, well, just before 1988, 87 probably. I was in my early 20s, and there was just so much abuse in that relationship that I remembered the day. It was my lowest low point. I was looking down the 2 flights and I was thinking, if I jumped down now, would I actually be checking out or would I be ending up being in a wheelchair? And I didn't want that. I just wanted to leave. And in that moment in time, I was sent an earth angel, somebody who offered me bioenergetics, and that's body-oriented psychotherapy. Well, I got very ill, and all the illness disappeared. So it was proven to me that it was really psychosomatic. All illness is because of wrong thinking, wrong behavior. That really helped me. And then just about that time when I was realizing where I was blasted with a wave of white light coming through the window for about half an hour. And from that moment on, my whole life changed. It was in that moment, I didn't really know what happened. All I saw was white light and I was undulating and the wave moved through. It was just blazing light. But then decades later, just a few years ago, I was with another channel, the revelation came through that there were actually 3 ascended masters, and they came and they brought me those gifts of healing through my voice and my hands. And from that moment on, I was completely awakened to my my God-given gifts, and I completely changed everything. Within a few months, I quit university, and then in New York, I spent 23 years of deep inner healing. I was immediately, in very magical ways, I was connected with all the people that I needed to be connected with. And one of them was my great spiritual mentor of more than 12 years. He was a very renowned trance channeler. He passed away a couple of years ago of old age. He channeled all the ascended masters and the archangels. And I received all my psychic training there. Immediately, I started doing healing circles, and then just life just took on from there.
Wow. Oh my gosh. And I was going to ask you about that pivotal moment that happened that changed your life forever. And during that pivotal moment, did you immediately understand what was happening spiritually, or did your journey unfold over time?
It was waking me up because with this person, this boyfriend of mine, right? And he
Hmm.
was so asleep and I was awakening and I looked down and all of a sudden I was shown a past life. So I was shown that I lived there amongst the common folk, not the royals, the gods,
Right.
right? And that was the first real awakening, like, oh, wow, what is, yeah. And so when that happened, then when that light came, it was actually quite magical. I was in mid conversation
Oh, wow.
with a neighbor, and I was cut off mid-sentence, and something walked me to the window. And then that blazing light came as a big light wave, and my arms went up, and that light was undulating through me for about, I would say, half an hour. And everything around me disappeared. I could just see blazing white light. It was very, very sacred, and I had no idea what hit me. There was actually somebody there who witnessed the whole scenario, no? But then right after that, Angeline, one strange, bizarre, mystical thing after the other happened. And it was I was astral traveling. I was out of my body and I was walked in the middle of the night to a place where I've never been to, like, and then I was shown a place where this boyfriend of mine was with somebody else, and I was just like, okay, and I walked back home and I kicked him out then. And
Good.
then strange things like this would happen where, somebody would stop me in the street and say, excuse me, I just saw you in this conference. It was some Indian master was speaking and I was there, and there were hundreds of people in the room, and he walked up to me and said, I need to tell you this. I sometimes see people's aura, the energy field in that room. And so all these strange things happened. And then very, very quickly, I was from one person to the other. I was clearly, Spirit wanted me to be in New York, where then my whole spiritual community
Right.
was brought to me. I was connected with Marianne Williamson's Manhattan Center for Life-Threatening Illnesses. And I started laying my hands on their, wherever something was aching, because they were carrying these heavy instruments, and they would freak out. They would say, what are you doing? The pain goes away. I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Oh my
So
God.
intuitively, my hands, I would, yes. And so when I shared that in New York, they were saying, well, you can volunteer at this place. And, in the it was 1990 when I arrived in New York, and the AIDS crisis was rampant. And so they had these huge healing circles in churchyards and schoolyards, and I was invited to participate and to help. I would go there twice, 3 times a week. And I was also offered to do volunteers work one-on-one in Marianne Williamson's center, where in essence I helped alleviate the transition of people who were dying of AIDS and leukemia. It was very, very intense. I was 24, and for a whole year. So that's how my first year in New York was doing all this volunteers healing work with in her center and with these healing centers. And then at some point it got so intense. Angeline, almost every night after I walked away from the healing circles, I would walk home crying because, I worked on all these people, they were dying. And then after a year, I couldn't take it anymore. And Spirit said, just bless it and walk away and focus on your path. And I started working one-on-one, and took me a while to get my own healing circle going. I focused on my performing some, parallel with the music and the acting, but the healing was always the red through line. Yeah, so I was immediately starting to do one-on-one work, always with the healing hands, and then started to tone. And then in 97, 98, I had my first 2 year big healing circle every week. It's kind of what we're doing now on Zoom, but it was in person in Manhattan.
I can imagine what it was like in Manhattan, what it felt like in Manhattan. And for the listeners here who will be tuning into the podcast and listening, people want to know, what does it mean to be a light leader? And what does being a light leader mean to you personally?
During the work, that the light workers now are now stepping up to becoming light leaders. So a light worker, to me, it's a big word, but it simply means it's anybody who of good-heartedness, who is doing work and giving service for the good of mankind. Yeah, to me, that's a light worker. Yeah. And then light leaders they're really stepping up to that responsibility, and they're saying, okay, we really want to inspire the world, wake people up, shake them up.
Okay. And was there ever a season where you struggled with fully embracing your gifts? In other words, being a light leader, was there a moment in time or a season where you struggled with that? Because that's a special gift. That's a special gift for, people like yourself to do light leading, light leader work.
There was never a struggle. In those 12 years that I went every week to the Upper West Side, to that, I was really step by step guided to doing whatever they threw in my path. Okay, now learn how to read tarot cards. Okay. And I would do it. And then after a few months, they would say, now throw the cards away because now you have trained your psychic ability. You can read people without cards. Okay. I would do that. And then they would say, now create your own healing circle. I would say, okay. I would always
Sure.
say yes. Yes. And what I struggled with for many, many years was to really step out into the world with my gifts that I'm very, very open to share now. Have been over the last 3 years, because 3 years ago, Spirit came and sort of summoned me and asked me, are you ready now to really commit full time? Like dedicate your life to doing your healing work, because we've prepared you for decades. And when I say decades, that I literally mean I had to do so much inner healing work on myself, Angeline, because that trauma that was created in my childhood and in my teenage years, it was intense. There were death threats, there was constant ridicule, there was constant, my psyche was so stretched and challenged. I had to, as a young child, constantly call the police every night. I did everything possible that you could put your hands on to heal emotionally, mentally, spiritually. I did. I did all the 12-step programs, the 12-step recovery programs. I worked with shamans. At some point, I worked with, on the book talk therapy, which didn't work very well for me. But it
Right.
was really only when I started to integrate my own, and with trial and error, the toning, when things started like, oh my God, things would start dissolving. And then when I worked with clients, that too. So I was keeping it hush hush because it's so out there and people don't know what to do with it.
Right.
So I was also a voice technique coach because that came from my performing arts background. So I was studying singing, music, I was studying acting. So, and now I know that was put in my path so I can really develop my body as a really strong instrument because as you know, the tones that move through me, they're powerful. So I needed to get really strong because I'm skinny, but
There you
I
are.
needed to really strong breathing muscles and a really
Right.
strong lungs, so that was that performing arts training had given me that. So I was coaching singers and speakers for many years and always simultaneously as I was doing, I would call it vibrational body work, where I would do hands-on, hands-off healing, incorporating the sound of my voice, the tones, and also the healing circles, but that was always underground, hidden. And
Mhm.
so 2, 3 years ago, Spirit said, finished with the hiding. Are you ready to step out? And that's then when it took me a few months to go on social media and to just really disclose this is who I am. And that's when I put that pinned Facebook post on where I'm just really bearing my
I
soul
saw
and
that.
yes, I was for 30 years, I was hiding behind acting roles and I was suppressing the essence of who I really am.
Mm.
And in fact, now everything is beautifully healed. In fact, Spirit whisked me back over to Europe in 2013. They said, well, how it came about, I held one of those big healing circles down in Tribeca in Manhattan. There
Oh
were about
yeah.
30 people on yoga mats. And I would channel these powerful tones, and they came in as these huge golden and pink pillars of light. And then afterwards in the sharing, everybody was seeing the angelics, the angels flying in through those pillars of light, the gold and the pink. And those, for those of you who don't know, these are the colors of the angels. We all experience an immense heart opening during that event. And then that night, I was shown and I was told it's time now to bring all that heart healing back to Europe, to your family, to your parents, bring forgiveness, bring reconciliation, bring that heart healing. And I called them up because I needed to separate for many years because there was so much abuse, even through the phone, verbally. And they opened their arms. They were ready to receive me. So I moved to London to be close enough so I can go back and forth.
Wow. Wow, what a story. See? And congratulations on going public. And speaking of that, we're going to talk about the power of voice and self-expression. Why do you believe so many people suppress their voice and authentic expression?
It's very scary to stand up and speak up. And many, many of us just think about being on public transport. How many times or in a park or in a public area, how many times do you see parents, well-meaning, I get it, shutting up their child? Shh, don't be so loud. Shh,
Right.
quiet. Shh. Yes, that stifles the expression. That conditions people as grown-ups to be timid, to be shy, to hold back, to not. It's so as children, many of us, most of us, are being conditioned to holding back our voices, our true expression. Whenever I see that, I always very gently tap them on the shoulder. I said, it's okay, please let them express. It's good, it's healthy. Because they don't know, but this is where it comes from. It starts very early on. And then of course it can oftentimes also be, I had clients, they would have this urge. They want to sing, but they say, I'm tone deaf. I said, nobody's tone deaf. It doesn't exist. I am. I was told over and over, I can't sing. I said, well, that's where it stems from. And
Right.
then they would start allowing themselves to express with exercises. What I would love to do when I did the one-on-one in-person sessions, I would have them close their eyes, turn on some world music, some drumming or some flute or some real nice rhythmic music, and have them just move and make sounds. Sound
Right.
and movement work is so liberating and it's so healing. Many times they just started to cry and release. Some of them started creating songs or spoken words. Sing your name. People would break down, bursting into tears because they were not able to sing their name. So that was just showing me how conditioned and suppressed we all are by society, you know?
Right.
So singing and just allowing yourself to speak up.
Very powerful and life-changing. Absolutely. And what happens energetically when someone finally gives themselves, when they give themselves permission to be seen and heard? What happens energetically?
Oh, it's incredible. It's that joy returns, that they literally return back to their inner child. They reconnect with it. And I get the holy shivers all over as I'm really feeling this because this is one of the main breakthroughs
Mm,
in when you're doing this kind of work, this release work and this empowerment work. When you touch this place of giving yourself permission to speak up, to say no, and to really say what you mean, yeah, and to really share what you're feeling. It is so liberating that you are reconnecting with that authentic self, which is, of course, your
sure.
inner child, right? Your inner child is never aging. It's always there. And it's that alive part in you. And then it's always a surefire sign when you see people that don't take themselves too seriously, when they are really joyous, and that you have that sense of freedom, that sense of liberation, because that's how children are. They don't hold back until they're being schooled and being conditioned
Oh,
by
sure.
society, right?
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. Wow.
Energetically, you are just opening
Open
up
yourself for joy.
to giving yourself, yes, giving yourself permission to be who you truly are.
There
Yeah,
you
no
go.
people pleasing, no
Forget that.
being afraid of the ramifications of, oh, if I say that, well, what would they think? Well, one of my many mentors once said, what other people think and say about you is none of your business.
That's exactly. I
Yes,
like
it's
that.
none
Love
of your
that.
business. And and I just recall a moment during the trance channeling with my mentor in New York. There was, I think it was Archangel Metatron came through and he held a whole speech about our responsibility is it to just express, share our experience of life.
There
Yes,
you go.
to our truest and authentic ability. Yes. And if that means, you write your journal or you write a book or you
Mhm.
write a blog or you dance or you paint or you just doodle, or
So,
you
right.
draw or you take it professionally further and you become an artist. Yes, that's our responsibility in life to share, or speakers like yourself, Angeline, you are sharing your life experience.
Right.
That is your responsibility in life. Yes,
Exactly. Exactly. I love that.
it's
Absolutely.
not our responsibility what other people say and what other people think about us. That would hold us back.
It would hold
Yes,
us
and
back
it's
for
none
so
of our
long.
business.
And that's what a lot of like women face. They are afraid to share their story because to fully express themselves because they are worried about what other people will think. So let me ask you this. Can sound and voice truly help
Yeah.
release emotional blocks stored in the body? So tell us about that because there's a lot of women who do suffer, unfortunately, from that. They have those emotional blocks that are still stored in the body, and that's trauma, whatever. Yeah. How can
Oh
sound
my
and voice
God, Angeline,
truly?
you step into Nattacia's vortex.
Yes, right. I love it.
This is the work I've been doing for decades. Yes. So, yes, it's very, and I asked because I started seeing how it's affecting and how it's working. And so I asked Spirit to explain what actually happens when I'm channeling these high frequency vibrational tones. And it was very simplified and explained to me. So in essence, these tones, first of all, I am being utilized as an instrument for the divine. So those tones come straight from the angelic realm. Those tones come, they are vibrating and they go straight into your cells. Now, this is an emotional imbalance. This goes into so it's in this it's a dis an imbalance in our cells, and these tones go into our cells and they unstuck any imbalance. So in essence, you are first being unstuck anything that's out of balance emotionally, mentally, even physically, spiritually. The tones go in
Mm.
and they shake you up. And I was talking to somebody said, "Oh, you're doing sound baths." I said, "No, not really." And then again, I asked Spirit, and they were saying, I am not relaxing people, even though one of the great benefits when you're working with me is that you will be very calm and balanced afterwards. But primarily, with these tones, I am interrupting old festered patterns,
Ah,
emotional patterns, thought patterns, behavior patterns. They're literally energetically interrupted, dismantled, cleared. So then there is tones, they bring back the balance. Yes. So you can have one session with me where the client brings in a clear focused intent, whatever they want to address in their life right now and what they want help with. And then the channeled guidance comes verbally, and then they lie down with their headphones on, eyes closed, and then we're receiving the sonic transmissions. These tones are called sonic transmissions.
mhm.
Yeah, and they do the magic. Somebody has been abused by men their whole lifetime, and then realizing probably in other lifetimes, generations back, and they can't get out of that vicious cycle, right?
Right, right.
Then and that just happened not too long ago with a client of mine. And then she was being shown a past life during the witch hunt where the men were burning the women who were healers, who were helping mankind with herbs, with tinctures, with
Wow.
chanting, right? And the men, they were so threatened by it that they called it witchery, right? And heresy. So we took her back to that lifetime. She was shown that. So in that lifetime, she was empowered to stand up to these men and saying, look, what you're doing is wrong. We women are not doing anything bad. We're
Right.
helping people heal. And in that moment, energetically, we managed to turn it all around. So we changed, if you will, we changed the past. And then when she came out of the session, she was completely feeling a lightness. She wouldn't look over her shoulder anymore. She wouldn't be always be anxious around guys. In fact, guys started, complete strangers started opening doors for her,
Oh,
started striking up just conversations, really kind and respectful on social media. Men started to really write very respectful comments. Yeah, so there was this immense energetic shift that she experienced. So this is what the tones do.
that's what the tones do.
And that's
And
just
it's
one
so much different from
example.
sound bath. It's so much different from sound bath
Yes, a
because
sound bath is
yeah.
when you lie down and you relax.
Okay. Right.
This is frequency medicine.
Oh
Mm.
yeah, definitely. And I partake of it every week, and it's amazing.
Yes.
I know, and I've experienced breakthroughs. So let's talk about breakthroughs. I know you've witnessed breakthroughs. So have you witnessed powerful breakthroughs through your sessions that deeply impacted you? And how about your clients too? Because I know your clients have received huge breakthroughs from the work that you do, which is much needed today, especially in this world we live in. There's just so much chaos.
Yes, yes, all the time, all the time. I'm always in awe and in wonderment what is possible just by applying the sound of my voice. Yeah. I mean, breakthroughs, and they happen within one session. You see, let's see, let me find some examples
Hmm.
where somebody his whole life he was conditioned to live an identity that was not his because of an extremely violent traumatic event that had happened to him as a young teen. And then he was he went into survival mode and became this tough guy. And
Yeah.
so when he committed to working with me, in the first session, oh my goodness, it's this release came because he realized he doesn't have to uphold this tough guy image anymore. He can just
Right.
be himself. So you see, so within one session, he then received a lot of action steps, so things to do at home, and they can be very hands-on, very practical. And he did them all. And within 1 week, next session, he came back. He was physically unrecognizable.
Oh my goodness.
His whole skin was smooth, and he had his cheeks were round, and this immense inner peace he was exuding. And he said, I've never felt this light in my life. Nattacia, he says, that I didn't know you can feel this light. I walked through life with this heavy load, like 300 pounds on my shoulders. It's all gone. And I cannot go into details, but there were a lot of issues that were all released. And then within that journey to liberation, the program where you have 10 individual sessions, every time he would come in, okay, I need to cut cords with this narcissist because they are a crazy maker. Even though I walked away from them, they keep re-entering, right? So we dedicated a session just energetically releasing this energy bond that was still energetically connected, and then to send them and bless them and send them back into the light. Well, out of his life, out, because once you clear it energetically, they're
Right.
being repelled. They cannot get into your energy field anymore, you see?
Oh, yeah, you see that? See that? And it's like,
And then also it can, yes, it can go into physical issues. I had no idea why this was revealed, but when she came out of the session, she burst into tears and she says, oh my God, Nattacia, my whole life I felt this pressure on my lungs and on my heart, and no doctor could help me. I had a hard time breathing. She suffered asthma too. She says, it makes sense. It comes from this lifetime. I'm certain. She says, the pressure is gone. It's gone. It
wow.
is gone, she said. And now it makes sense that this lifetime I always was seeking the sunlight and I was always seeking nature. I mean, very, very, it was made clear now after this lifetime.
Sure.
So it can just be something like this where we don't even know. And then within one session, this lifelong issue, health issue that she had, and no doctor could help her, it was just released. Mhm.
Exactly, exactly. And I want to ask you this, why is this work especially important for visionaries, leaders, creatives, and entrepreneurs like myself?
Look, frequency medicine is the medicine of the future. Sound and light and color frequencies. This is, you will see very, very soon, we won't need to cut into people's flesh anymore. Because why? If you constantly maintain the body's well-being and wellness, like what you do weekly in the Zoom healing circle, no, every week, when you feel some imbalance in the body, the tones, they remove the static, they remove the debris that you are absorbing as a light leader, a light worker. You are most likely an empath, you are sensitive, you are absorbing energies, that anxiety, that stress, that worry or fear that people are experiencing now. You have to ask yourself, tune in and ask, is this mine, or am I absorbing it from somebody else? For you to be a light worker, light leader, to have responsibility to help others along the path, it's your responsibility to keep your vessel always really, really high frequency and
Right.
clear. And the tones help you maintain that balance. And so in the future, people will recognize this, because if you keep your body, your physical vessel in balance like this on a weekly basis, you will never get out of balance. You will
Exactly.
always speak your truth. You will always be authentically expressing you, and then no imbalance will fester inside of you. Your cells will be always, the molecular structure will always be in equilibrium. So no illness can be happening. You see,
Exactly.
that's why it's so important.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Because if you're feeling anxious in your body and it
Mhm.
just sits there, it's going to get worse.
Yes. Remember, emotions must not be suppressed. They are
Right.
emotions, energies in motion. It's very, very necessary and healthy to express whatever is there. And I'm not saying you walk around if you're angry and you beat people up.
No,
No,
no, no. That's
you
not the answer.
find an activity. You're finding an activity. You do some sports, and you do some
There you
running,
go.
or where
Boxing,
you can
whatever.
act it out, but you need to get in touch with your emotions, with your feelings in a very, very healthy way. And again, the voice, there is one modality that I'm offering. It's the voice toning circle. And that does not work on Zoom, that you have to be in person. And I held many, many in New York, where people get together in a circle and then you tune in, and then you start making tones and noises and sounds with your voice together all at once. And this is so freeing and so liberating, and you become more and more confident. That's the magic of sound. It just takes you to places,
It does.
you
No
know.
kidding. Absolutely. Absolutely. Takes you to a lot of places. And I have a question. So, how can someone begin reconnecting with their intuition and inner voice? Because we talk a lot about the voice, the inner voice.
It's a good idea to be around people who are doing this already.
I
That's
agree.
why it's very told
Mm.
to create, this is the entry point where anybody who is just very new to what I do, so that they don't get overwhelmed. You just start out, you come, you try it out, and then we do a little very light meditation. We're doing a very light tuning in. We're doing very, very gentle mantra chanting. So it's helping people who are new to this way of connecting with the invisible realm, with the intuitive realm. And then little by little, step by step, next thing you know, you feel the urge every morning. You want to do it by yourself.
There you go. There you go. I love that. And let's talk about, because we're coming up to the top of the hour very soon. What is one message you believe people need to hear right now?
Well, stay within you. Don't put your focus on the outside, because right now there is chaos in the world and the world is being cleared up by the light. So rather than being thrown around by, social media and mainstream media, just remain within, stay focused within. The world that you would like to see by taking little steps, being kind to one another, feeling compassion. You never know why people say or do things that they do say and do. You don't know what people have suffered through. So it's always good to give people a benefit of the doubt, no, and to always believe in the good in people first, hear them out. If you walk in the street, just share a smile, share a nice hi, maybe few a few lovely sentences of kindness.
Right.
This is live the example how you wish to see a better world. Yes.
There you
And then
go.
with the children, of course, show them rather than reprimanding them, don't do this, don't do, just be the good example of kindness, of compassion, of love, 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 love. The most important thing to remember, you are pure love, and everything else is being put onto you by everything that's happening around us.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yes.
And where can people reach you, and what legacy do you hope your work leaves behind?
Oh, how beautiful. Well, my website is just my name.com. It's very easy, www.nattaciasatie.com. And you find everything I do. You can connect with the weekly healing circle there. You can book if you are curious about the journey to liberation, you can just book an Unleash Your Splendor very session with me together on Zoom. And we can just chat and see how I may be best of service to you. And my legacy, well, I'm working on my second book now, which is the channeled messages that come through every week in the Healing Circle. The first one I created in the late 90s. Yes, that's out. That's available. Now the second one is done soon. So that's something. These are inspirational messages and affirmations and inspirations, all to self-empower and to self-love. That's one way of leaving something behind for the world. I also have written quite a bit of music that's all channeled material. It's very few songs are recorded. I intend to record many more of them,
Good.
so that will be part of it. And now also if you have a hard time with speaking, expressing, there was a time in New York for about 10 years where I developed something called the Vocal Gym for Public Speaking. It's a full body workout for breath, voice, and self-empowerment. Self-empowerment is the through line in everything I do. Yes, this course used to be a boot camp intensive course in New York, and people loved it because New Yorkers are so fast-paced,
Oh, I know
and they
they
were in
are.
and out, and then their voice and their life were transformed. But I did take the time and I recorded a
Great.
beautiful home study e-course. So that's available too. You get all this on my website. The biggest legacy I intend to leave behind is I'm going to start traveling very soon again. Because over the last few years, Spirit told me to establish myself online via Zoom. I built that online presence the last 3 years. It's been a challenge because I started out as a complete technophobe. Now I'm
Right.
okay, but I have great helpers, but I cannot wait to step out into the world again. And I already started making connections,
Good.
collaborations to bring my big healing circles around the planet. So when I'm being invited into a community, I will show up and we create these beautiful big healing circles where these immense empowering tones, healing tones will come through. And then also the energy that comes through, the healing energy that comes through my hands. And ultimately, Spirit has been telling me for at least 20 years now, there will be a healing sanctuary.
Oh, good.
And they're pointing now more and more towards Mexico. So it seems it could be somewhere on the Yucatan.
Ooh, that's great.
That will be a community of communal living. What we grow our own food, our own vegetables and fruits and herbal gardens, and people can go there and they can replenish. And I will be there, and then I will have a nomadic lifestyle to bring these healing tones. Because remember, I'm also a light activator, so I activate people's light body, which is their heart, their throat, their third eye, and their crown.
Go.
Once you are activated in your heart with the tones, you will walk through life with an open heart and a healed heart. And this is really this is my main life's purpose, my soul's purpose, is to bring that love, that peace, that healing, and the heart opening into the world. Yes, and it comes through my voice, my speaking voice, the tones, the singing voice, the toning. Yes, all of
That's
that.
amazing. That is
So
amazing.
yes, it's a lot. It's a lot, but I'm doing it. I stepped into it a long time ago, and it just keeps unraveling and rolling out. And yes, it is my greatest joy to see when the light starts shining in somebody that was dampened and was in pain mentally, physically, and then they step into my vortex and
There you
the
go.
lightness returns. So
Love
this is
it.
really this is what I live for, Angeline. Yes.
Right. And this is what you've been called to do for so many,
Yes.
for the world, for the world.
Yes.
Yes. Well, thank you so much,
Yes.
Nattacia. This was a deeply
Oh,
transformational, enlightening, eye-opening conversation. So thank you for being here today and for sharing your wisdom, your journey, and your beautiful light with the audience. And I truly believe that this episode is going to resonate with so many people who have spent years silencing themselves, carrying emotional pain, hiding their truth, suppressing their emotions, or feeling disconnected from who they really are. And your message is such a powerful reminder that healing is possible, that our voice matters, and that authentic expression can completely transform our lives. So to everyone listening today, I want to encourage you to stop shrinking, stop silencing yourself, stop abandoning the parts of you that are longing to be seen, heard, and healed. Your voice has power, your story has purpose, and your healing matters. And if this episode spoke to you, please make sure to subscribe on our YouTube channel, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear this message today. So we are going to end the broadcast right now with a special message at the end. I want to wish you all an amazing day and be the light. Bye, everyone. And thank you so much, Nattacia.
yes.
Are you a local business owner in Stewart looking to get your brand in front of the right audience? My name is Angeline, and I am the host and founder of Let's Break the Silence, a podcast dedicated to empowering women to heal, rebuild their confidence, and step into their next chapter. I'm currently partnering with a select number of local businesses who want more visibility and deeper connection with women who are actively investing in themselves, whether that's through wellness, beauty, personal growth, or lifestyle. This isn't just about advertising. It's about building real partnerships and highlighting businesses that are truly making an impact in our community. If that sounds like you, I would love to connect. Please send me a message or reach out. Let's collaborate and grow together.